Yo, what's up guys? Universal Mastery. So what I do on my channel is I break down the occult sciences to an extremely practical level so that you can use them in your day-to-day life and get real, actual results. So what I'm going to be doing on today's video is continuing with this archetypal series. And today's archetype is going to be the lovers. So if you want to know and learn a little bit more about the archetype of the lovers, then stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is definitely make sure you go and check out my Patreon. On my Patreon, I have exclusive content. Half of that content is going to be actual practices where you are empowering yourself. For example, like chakra empowerments. I have a specific ritual that you can perform that is meant to get you in tune to certain energies for your own self-development. And I have step-by-step breakdown videos of exactly how to perform these things. And I have a step-by-step breakdown video of how to do an invocation, which is a spiritual communication. So there is a specific technique that is very useful if you apply when you try to do your own invocations. And once again, what I do on that video is I break it down step by step so that you know exactly how to do it. Okay, then the other half of the videos are going to be geared towards educational entertainment. So it's going to be very similar to a video like this. You know, it's entertaining, but you're also getting a lot of value from it. You know, there's a lot of education that you're getting from it. So if you want to join the Patreon and gain access to these exclusive videos, because they're not going to be on my YouTube channel, where you're going to find it is you click the description. And then it's going to be that first link at the very top. It literally says My Patreon, and the link is right next to it. Okay, so that's where you're going to find the Patreon. What I want to do is I want to give a special shout out to the top tier members. Their names are going to be mentioned in the parentheses right below that link. Okay, so other than that, going right into this video. So we're going to be talking about the archetype of the lovers. So let me read this off. And then once again, first thing I want to say, if you've been following the series, then you already know this already, but if you just hopped in, I gotta mention this. If you are new to this series, start at the first archetype. So just so you know, for the first one, it's the Joker, and I put parentheses that says start here, and then follow the rest of the videos based on the numbers of the path. So the Joker says path number 0, work your way up from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then, you know, this would be the 5th video you watch. I highly recommend you follow it in order. Okay, that's just my recommendation. Okay, but other than that, going right into this video. Oh, excuse me, this is path 6. So you would be going all the way up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay? Okay, here we go. So path 6, the path of logic in service of the heart, the way of the lovers. Here we go. Qualities, relationships, love, connection of opposing forces, communication, writers, traders, business, overcoming duality and separation. Description. The lovers governs this path between understanding and beauty. Like all love affairs, it can create a lasting union if the partners connect to their heart. But when judgment and misunderstandings dominate, it will end in separation and divorce. Anyone who travels this road must use understanding, logic, and the power of reasoning in the service of beauty, love, and spirituality. Followers of this road must resist the belief that rationality explains all. Writers, communicators, and PR experts of all sorts must remember that they are merely the messengers, not the message. The affirmation is, I am attracting the right relationships into my life. I surround myself with people that understand and love me. I am the junction for people to connect with each other. Okay, the psalm is, I have remembered thy name, O Lord. The astrological aspect is Gemini. And obviously the tarot card is the lovers. The lovers denote the two that are one. the ideal union of all dualities, represented by the astrological sign Gemini twins. Exactly the same, but of different gender, they will love as the tool that builds unity. Challenges. Too logical. So these are the challenges that you're going to experience when you start to either initiate yourself through this pathway, or if you start to, you could say, take on the influences of this archetype of the lovers. So if you were to actually work through this pathway according to the tree, according to the Kabbalah tree of life, or just the tree in general, then you will start to take on this archetype. So this would be the challenges that you would experience from taking on the archetype of the lovers. Too logical, too much in their head, unemotional, lies, theft, and a tendency to use the sword of logic to separate rather than unite. Take care to avoid conveying false or distorted messages. The Hebrew letter is Zain, stands for both a sword and the male sex organ. They say that the pen is mightier than the sword, but in this case, they are one and the same. The sword is the symbol of the powerful intellect, slicing through to the crux of any issue. This letter also translates to penis and the male sex organ. Through loving sexual intercourse, Zain has the potential to foster a perfect union between the masculine and feminine, between 0 and 1, ovum and sperm. Okay. Alright, so now that I went over that, let me share with you a little bit of my experience when I was actually going through this pathway and I was initiating myself into these understandings. Okay, so the first thing that I want to highlight is that this path, this archetype of the lovers, definitely will teach you, it will teach you a much stronger sense of balance. Okay, and it will definitely teach you this sense of balance in the form of union, meaning that you will have to come to terms with whatever it is that you may look at in life, whatever it is that you may judge, whatever it is that you think is no good, whatever it is that you have these preconceived notions about, this pathway will bring you face to face with these things, but it will bring you the side of those things that is beautiful. Okay, so you may have this idea in your head. You may have these preconceptions of things that are in your life, or just things that are going on in general, that you think are disgusting, that you do not allow yourself to partake in, that you just do not give the time of day. But as I said, when you start to work with this archetype, it will present a lot of those things that you have written off as no good. It will actually present those same things to you from a very beautiful perspective, meaning that that thing, whatever it is, that you don't like, or that thing that you don't want to partake in, or whatever it is, will present itself. It will show up in your life, your physical reality, and it will look very beautiful, and it will be very beautiful. It'll be something that you actually feel drawn towards, and then what that's going to do is it's going to challenge your mind. Okay, it's going to challenge you to be like, why did I think this was so not right? Why did I think this is something I didn't want in my life? Why did I judge this? Why did I have these preconceived notions on this specific subject? And then that is the art. So you're going to literally look at all those things that you had already, essentially written off, and then you're going to have another opportunity or another chance, because now you're seeing a completely different side of those things, to make a new decision. Like, is it really something that I don't like? Is this something that I truly am disgusted by, or I'm truly not into, or I truly don't like? Or is this just something that I truly don't understand? And maybe I've just heard a bunch of nonsense, either from the media, from the masses, from whatever it is. Maybe I just have these preconceived notions because of what I've heard other people say. And maybe it's influenced me to a certain degree where I'm now judging this and I haven't even had my own personal experience. Okay, and this can go, like, I'm speaking about anything that you may write off as not good. Anything that you may think is not healthy for your life, or something that's bad, or something that you could consider evil, whatever it is. Dark, you don't like it, you keep it away. These things will present themselves to you in a much different light, and you will have a completely and once again, as I said, you'll have like this opportunity to rewire your thinking and to come into union and understand those things that you said you didn't like. And when you do that, that is such a balancing act, and that is such a balancing practice, because the truth is that there is really nothing out there that's all, what you would consider to be bad. That's just coming from your perception. Your perception is viewing something from a certain, you could say, angle that's causing that thing that you're viewing to portray itself in that disgusting light that you don't want in your life. But the reality of that is that that's your mind viewing it from that angle, and that's why it's projecting itself to you in that way, to your psyche. When in reality, there anything that there may be that thing that you don't like, that thing that you're not into, that thing that you don't want to partake in, that thing that you call evil, that thing that you stay away from. But there are many angles to that thing as well. And if that thing shifted to a certain angle and then came across your path, and then essentially you could say like came up to you and projected itself to you from that different angle, you might very well be shocked about these preconceived notions that you already had on that thing, because you're like, whoa, I thought this was like something I was just totally not into. I thought this was evil. I thought this was something not good. I thought this was something I didn't want. But now it's showing itself to you from this different angle that's making you question your own belief system. It's making you question, like, why did I think that? And then you start to go deeper into your mind about the things that I'm saying, where you realize, you start to understand that was a preconceived notion that you had set for yourself. Okay, and this is the art of this pathway. And I'm not saying it's wrong to have boundaries. I'm not saying it's wrong to have some preconceived notions about things that you've observed, but you want to observe things and not just observe, but you also want to experience things. And then that's when you can make your preconceived notions. Once you've had the experience and you've observed them, that's when you can make your decisions. But most people haven't actually had the experience. They just see it portrayed, once again on the media, or other people portray it to them, and they actually haven't had direct experience with whatever that thing is. And that's why they put a lot of these preconceived notions on top of it, because they haven't had the experience. So this path will definitely give you that experience, and then it will give you the opportunity to see that thing or that circumstance, that situation, that idea, that belief from a different angle. Okay, so for me, and I'm just going to cover a couple areas where this manifested in my day-to-day life. So I was, I had a really good friend that I had met while I was doing these path workings, and he was, he was very in tune with the lighter side of spirituality, in terms of, working with all the archangels and working with all the spirits that bring this light to the table, like a lot of light beings, you could say, a lot of angels and things in that nature. And during my path working, because I was coming from the perspective of the Qliphoth, which are essentially known to be the dark gods, they are the really ancient time, you could say, like the really ancient spirits, and to an extent timeless. They're more so these darker beings. They are these darker entities. When in reality, there really is there's no war between angels and dark gods or demons and things in that nature. There's no war, okay? There's no war. They're different types of energies. That's a fact, but there isn't a war, okay? So me working through the Qliphoth and working with these dark beings, and me being on my journey, traveling through these different paths, I was starting to kind of fall into the idea that I was like, oh no, I work with, only the dark beings, only the dark gods. I have some of my strongest relationships with them. So that must mean that I must not even get, I don't need to work with angels. I don't need to extend myself over to that light side, you could say. I'm comfortable in this darkness. I'm comfortable working with the dark deities because that's just what I was drawn towards. But what my friend brought into my life is he brought into the understanding that it's essential to work with angels, and it's essential not just to work with angels, but it's essential to be balanced. He made it extremely clear to me that I am a light and a dark being. I am both. And if I am choosing to only gravitate towards one side, there is a flaw in my belief system. There's a flaw in my thinking that I need to come to terms with. And by connecting with him, I had an option. I could have been like, dude, screw you, fuck off. I'm going to continue to do what I do. Or I could have looked a little bit deeper and saw the truth in what he was saying. And the fact of the matter is that he was 110% right. I need to embrace both aspects. So I needed to be way more open to these light beings, way more open to these angels, because the fact of the matter is they are working in my life. They are working in your life. They're working in all of our lives to a certain extent. So why would I shut myself off to that belief? Why would I shut myself off to that extra push and that extra help that I could be having in my life based off a psychological mistake where I'm like, no, I'm only a dark being, and that's shifting me more towards one side. That's shifting me more towards one end of the polarity, when in reality, you want to be balanced. You want to be in the center of it all, which is, according to the Kabbalah, tying it back to the tree of life, you want to walk in the middle pillar, because that's where you're going to be balanced. That's where you're going to get a much wider understanding and perspective of everything that's going on and the importance of all of it. That it really is extremely important, all of it. So he really brought that across my path, and it wasn't easy for me to fully embrace, because I came from a Christian upbringing where, God is light and Jesus is this and God is this, and over the years it had built this inner pain and this inner trauma for me, because the way I was raised as a Christian was not in a healthy way. It was a very forceful and a very restrictive way. So I had this inner trauma towards these light beings to an extent that was subconsciously affecting the way that I psychologically, consciously felt and thought. And, from working through this pathway, the archetype of the lovers, I came to that understanding that I need to love that balance within myself. I need to, if I want to be my most powerful self, if I want to be the strongest version of myself, I need to love that. I need to bring unity between the light aspect and the dark aspects of my being, and then all the other aspects. So that was definitely one of the primary aspects that I came across while working through this archetype. And then and then there was another aspect where there was a guy that I had met, and he was gay, and he carried more so of this, this kind of like a feminine. It was more so like a feminine, masculine energy. Actually, if I had met him, I wouldn't have known he was gay. But he also carried a bit of a feminine energy at the same time. So at the time, I didn't really understand being homosexual, meaning I didn't really understand I didn't understand why people were homosexual, and I didn't understand I didn't understand what it was all about. So I kind of had this notion in my mind that was, because I didn't have a knowledge, because I didn't know why people chose to be attracted to the same sex, it kind of made this, you could say this, there was this blockage in me that was just like, okay, because I don't understand you, I don't really want to give you my time and energy, because I just don't understand it. During that time, I was very okay, you're either masculine or you're feminine, and I would identify the masculine as being the man and then the feminine as being the woman. So I didn't really understand it. So for the most part, I would kind of just stay away from, homosexuals, because I didn't understand them, and that made me a little bit uncomfortable. But sure enough, during the path of the lovers, I had, in one of my previous jobs, I had connected with this guy, and he was gay, and he and you know, we actually got close, and we hung out a couple times. And during those times that we hung out, I was essentially like studying him. I was learning about his thought process. I was trying to figure out more about what it's like being gay and what it's like being homosexual. And the realization that I came to is that it comes down to energy. Like, it's still the same thing. Like, when it comes to, you know, masculine and feminine, you can be a man or a woman and carry large amounts of either that masculine or feminine. Now, I still have the belief personally that if you're a man, it's going to be a lot more potent when it comes to expressing in you could say, integrating that masculine aspect of who you are. And then with the woman, it's going to be a lot more potent to embrace that femininity, that feminine energy. But that does not mean that you can't be a man and have extreme amounts of feminine energy as well, as long as that's your intention and you're working on developing that aspect within yourself. And then the same with the woman, with the masculine aspects, then, you know, it's still the same. It's very similar. And it has a and what I realize is that it's an energy. It's just the energy behind it. So by hanging out with him, it brought that sense of unity, of inner understanding for me, because I was like, oh, this is something I never understood. And because of that, there was a certain type of people, homosexuals, that I pretty much stayed away from for most of my life. Because I didn't understand it, and I just didn't have it in me to really ask, like, you know, why are you homosexual? Why do you think that is the, you know, that's the right way for you to live your life? And because, once again, my previous belief was that the man can only be masculine, the woman can only be feminine. But when I started doing these path workings, I realized how tangible energy really is. And once again, the realization that I came to is that you can be a man and be feminine, and you could have another man that is masculine, and those two different energies are going to be what creates that relationship if you're homosexual and if you're attracted to each other. Just like with a woman, if there's a feminine woman and then there's a more masculine woman, there will always be two different roles, okay? Whether it's woman on woman or man on man or man and woman, there will always be two different roles. One will be more submissive and passive, and the other one will be more exertive, more solar, more expressive and masculine. So this is like one of the realizations I came to, and it brought this sense of unity for myself, because I was like, wow, now I understand. Holy cow! Like it opened up a side of me that was like, wow, I spent a lot of time not knowing this, and I had all these preconceived notions in my mind of what I thought it was. And now I just got challenged, because this guy that I was hanging out with, he was a great guy, an absolutely great guy, and he, you know, we had a good time. We would, you know, during this time I was living in Miami, we went and we got hookah together. We were hanging out like you know, really good friends. And you know, once again, during that time, I really got to understand and go deeper and study and figure out what was my mind previously thinking and contemplating, and now what do I understand with knowing this new dynamic that I've installed into my belief system when it comes to energy. And once again, what the conclusions that I came to is what I'm sharing on this video. It's energy. Energy is energy. Energy is what attracts energy. Okay, so that's the fact of the matter, and that's what I came to. And that was a very unifying thing within myself, because now, you know, whenever I come across anyone that's homosexual or anyone that's gay, I have a much deeper understanding of why, of how that dynamic works and why it works. When previously it was a blockage for me. So it was something I stayed away from, and I had to, because I stayed away from it, I had to essentially block it. I had to say, no, I think the man is what's masculine and the woman's feminine. So I had to, it was like I was fighting this thing that was essentially going to be a waste of my time, because during that time I didn't understand how energy really worked. Okay, so that was a very unifying thing for me. And you know, because I worked through this path and I gained the virtues of it, now I can extend my relationships, now I can extend myself to many more people, because I understand how energy works. It's not just the surface thing, okay? It's not as surface as I had previously thought it was. So that, you know, that was a wonderful thing, and that was the path of bringing the unity between that masculine and that feminine energy. And essentially that's what creates love. A very powerful masculine and a very powerful feminine can create that tension and that charge of love, that sexual tension, where you actually begin to love somebody. You could have the most attractive woman, the most attractive man, this is hypothetical, but if they don't carry that energy properly, for example, if the woman is, let's say, very masculine and the guy is very masculine, they're not going to connect. Even though they could be extremely attracted to each other, but there will not be a charge of love. There will not be unity, because these two energies, it's like putting a positive and a positive together. You can't have power with a positive and a positive. It has to be a positive and a negative. And the feminine is negative by nature, the masculine's positive by nature. So, you know, you could have, once again, they could be so attracted to each other, but it will only last maybe like a month if they tried, unless one of them shifts their energies down, but it would only last a month if they continue to hold that same charge. So eventually what would have to happen is the woman would have to drop her masculine energy and become submissive and become passive and become more feminine, become like soft, like a flower, because that is what attracts a man. That's what a real king and emperor actually wants. And then, you know, vice versa. If the woman is feminine and the guy is feminine and he's passive and he's submissive, she will eventually lose all attraction to him, and there won't be that charge of love. There won't be that unity, because she's looking for a man to be the ruler. She's looking for an emperor. She's looking for a king that she can rely on for protection and safety. And if he's passive and submissive and can't make up his mind, she's gonna lose that attraction for him. So, you know, it's until he ups his masculinity, until he steps into that, and then he knows what he wants and he directs energies and he essentially takes control of the elements around him, and he becomes that archetype of the king or emperor. But yeah, that's just how energy dynamics work. And once again, you can do it in the same sex, you can do it from different sex, same, you know, it's just how it works for the human beings especially. But yeah, so I think that's gonna wrap it up. This path, once again, to wrap this whole thing up and give you the moral of this archetype, it brings a sense of unity, okay? It brings a sense of balance. The things that you're writing off, the things that you think you already have an idea on, it's going to make you question those things if you haven't actually had experience with them. So it will bring the experience of the things that are essentially on your blind side, that you think you already know what you believe about those things, and it will bring them, shift the angle of those things so that you see it from a completely beautiful perspective. And then that will challenge you, and you will have a choice in that moment to say, wow, maybe I'm gonna open myself up and be open to shifting my mindset and my belief system. Or, you know, if you're going from the vices perspective, then you're gonna be like, no, it's still this way, because I've always believed it, and it makes you feel safer. But I highly recommend you keep your mind open and you adapt, because that's the whole point of path working. So other than that, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, like it right down there. And then also, come over here, hit that subscribe button. It's gonna be right down there. Then go to the button above that, it looks like a bell. Click that bell, because what it does is it's gonna notify you when I upload videos. So click the bell and hit the all button. And you know, I post videos as often as I can, so definitely I think you'll get a lot of value if you hit that all button, because I'm sure I'll post a video that, you know, there'll be a day where you just happen to be on your YouTube channel, you'll see my video and I'll have a message in it that will be very impactful for you. I'm guaranteeing this right now, so definitely click that bell. And then once again, if you want to join the Patreon, where you're going to find the Patreon is go to the description, click that first link at the top, that's the Patreon, in order to become a member of the Patreon, you have to, or not in order to become a member, but in order to gain access to the exclusive videos on my Patreon, you have to at least be a tier 2 member or up. Tier 2 is $9.95 a month, and that's a reoccurring payment. But if you do the math, that's literally less than $1 a day. So there's really no reason why you shouldn't be able to afford that with all the value that is on my Patreon. And then as you go up in tiers, the value goes up as well. So I'm going to let you check that out for yourself. Then go to the second link below. It's going to take you to Streamlabs merch, where you can place an order for a Hecate sigil shirt, where when you place the order, they will literally ship it right to your door, just like Amazon Prime does. Then go to the third link below. That's going to take you to my Facebook community. When you click that, you'll see a pin post that says private group here. Click that, request to join the private group. I'll add you in. What I do on there is I put up extra content in the form of written and in the form of quotes. So other than that, once again, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the night wherever you are, or day, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.